Once again, good morning. Thank you for being here and showing your support for and helping sustain the memory of those Americans who lost their lives in the 9/11 tragedies. My name is Earl Burge, and we have come together to remember and celebrate those lives and to ensure that we and future generations never forget the sacrifices that these Americans have made. Please turn your attention to the rear for the Battle Creek Army Recruiting Honor Guard.
Right turn, hold. Forward, hold.
Joining me on the stage today is Mr. Ray Zingaretti, the Director of Statistics Information Services, and a very special guest speaker that you'll hear from in a few minutes, Mr. Leonard McCabe. Like all of you, I remember very clearly where I was, what I was doing on that day 13 years ago. And I was sitting in my office, and the administrative assistant for our division came in and said there was something going on the TV, a tragedy. I think the way she described it. So I walked across to the break area, and by the time I got there, you could see the smoke coming out of the tower. We sat there watching the report, and the word spread throughout the facility that this had happened, this terrible accident. And the room started to fill with a number of other folks, and we were about shoulder to shoulder. Not long after that, the second aircraft attacked the tower. And there was a silence, and we knew that this was not an accident at that time. We tried to make sense of it, but really could not. After listening to the report, I was asked to come back to the office because we were receiving multiple phone calls about what to do through our control center. I was in a DOD facility at the time, and the people that were working there were concerned that they were targets. And there was a great deal of confusion going on. Fortunately, we were not impacted on that day as a facility, but everyone employed there was certainly impacted. Not to the extent that the family members or the victims by any means, but to help us understand better what those family members have gone through, we have asked Mr. Larry McCabe to come and speak to us. Mr. McCabe has, on that day, lost 3 family members, 2 at the World Trade Center and 1 at the Pentagon. Please help me welcome Mr. McCabe.
Good morning. Recently, I've been thinking about some very profound words, like where were you September 11, 2001? I'm sure you all remember where you were. I do. Where are we now? I could go into great detail about what happened on 9/11 and how it changed my family forever, but I won't. This country has suffered great losses since September 11 and continues to do so. The war, our soldiers coming home hurt, maimed, many of them coming home with American flags over their bodies. September 11th did not just happen 13 years ago. It's still happening today. I visit the 9/11 Memorial in Lower Manhattan quite often. I stand at the North Pole where the World Trade Center 1 once stood. I look down into the water. I look up into the sky, and I rub my hand across my cousin's name, Michael Justin McCabe, and Mike's best friends, Michael Patrick Tucker and Keith Allen McKeithy. Their names are listed together there because they worked together on the 104th floor of the World Trade Center. They died together that day. Over 200 people jumped from the towers to escape the flames and smoke. My worst thought, did you jump? As with the North Pole, I run my hands across a couple of names listed at the South Pole as well. My cousin, Brandon Francis McCabe. He was named after my grandfather, Francis. A little further, I walk to the north side of the South Pole. I run my hand across another name, Edward Thomas Earhart. My cousin, my mother's side of the family. No, Eddie didn't die at the World Trade Center site. He died at the Pentagon. He was enlisted, United States Navy. He was from a very small town in Kentucky. The name of the town is Salt Lick, Kentucky. Michael Justin McCabe. His body was recovered 48 hours after the attacks. Brandon Francis McCabe. His body was never recovered. Michael Patrick Tucker and Keith Allen McKeeby, Mike McCabe's best friends. Their bodies was never recovered. Edward Thomas Earhart. His body was the very first removed from the Pentagon. Where were you September 11th, 2001? Where are we now? Events like this is where we are now. To still honor, remember, and most of all, never forget. I have a note I would like to read to you. Cousin Lenny. Yeah, they called me Lenny when I was younger. Please extend my sincere thanks to everyone that is participating in this event today. Not only to remember my brother, Michael McCabe, but the thousands of others we lost. The past 13 years has not been easy, as you know. But, as our Irish motto states, we are McCabe's, we are strong. I look forward to your frequent trips to New York City and very much look forward to seeing you real soon. Hugs, Suzanne McCabe, Rumson, New Jersey. Along with my cousin's word, I would also like to thank you for coming out to walk, remember, and never forget. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. McCabe. Now please join me in welcoming Ray Zingaretti.
Good morning. On behalf of the Defense Logistics Agency and the Hartville-Inouye Federal Center, thank you very much for being here today. On September 11th, the United States was attacked. The world recoiled in horror as the World Trade Center towers disintegrated in a cascade of soot, glass, and twisted steel. We saw images of the western wall of the Pentagon reduced to a gaping hole. We learned of a commercial airplane falling from the sky over rural Pennsylvania, killing all 44 aboard. Nearly 3,000 people, Americans and the citizens of more than 40 other countries, lost their lives that day, murdered by an enemy who proclaimed hatred for the values and beliefs of America. All of us probably remember exactly where we were and what we were doing the morning when we first heard the news 13 years ago. I remember like it was yesterday. I was preparing for a DLA customer symposium in Jacksonville, Florida. I was just preparing to leave for breakfast when the news hit of a plane hitting the World Trade Center. And I remember thinking, rationalizing, how it must have been a small plane and the pilot must have had a heart attack or something of that nature. That really was the beginning of a normal day, swiftly turned into chaos, confusion, and fear, escalating with each passing moment, not knowing the scope of the attack, what target would be next, and when would it end. And then watching in utter disbelief as the two towers crumbled to the ground. Later in the day, I vividly remember going up on the roof of the hotel. They had a pool up there and you could look out over the city of Jacksonville. There were very few people on the streets, no hustle or bustle, no traffic noises, no horns, cars, no planes in the sky. The stillness and the quiet was deafening in a major American city, interrupted occasionally by the roar of a military fighter jet, as it was, I'm sure, across the entire country, coming to the realization our lives had changed forever in those few hours. That day shocked us all surely, and it left deep scars. But this wasn't the first time that our nation's enemies used terror acts to try to crush our national spirit, and it surely won't be the last. What the enemy fails to realize is their acts only serve to strengthen our national spirit and our resolve to seek justice. Victims of these murders died simply for being an American, nothing more. They are our countrymen and our heroes, and they represent a society where people treasure and defend our constitutional freedoms. The freedom to assemble, the freedom to petition, the freedom of religion, the freedom of the press, and freedom of speech. Our nation's enemies want to take those freedoms away from us and from the whole world. Please join me in a moment of silence as we remember those who lost their lives on September 11, 2001, and on all those dark days when our countrymen perished because they represented the land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you. As we join together in today's Remembrance Walk, please take time to consider both the past and the future. Remember those who have died for America, both those who perished as an act of service to our country and those murdered by association with this great land. And please consider the future, how we strengthen our democracy, serve our fellow citizens through the duties we perform as part of our nation's government, and what we have to do to prepare ourselves and our neighbors to defend against those we know are still out there, still threatening to destroy our way of life. We can never allow that to happen, and we must ask ourselves individually, what can I do to ensure that the light of America is never extinguished? How can my actions help defeat the strain of evil in the world? Please consider those questions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dingeretti. I would ask that also that you take some time to reflect on where you were and what you were doing on that day. I want to thank you all for coming out today. At this time, we're going to ask the Honor Guard to lead us to the flagpole for our honorary balloon release. Upon releasing the balloons, the Honor Guard will then lead us in the walk around the building. Please feel free to join us in remembering our fellow Americans.
Detail. Halt.
This day will never be forgotten. We release these balloons as a simple honor for our loved ones, honor for our war fighters, and honoring our freedom.
Everybody could just come.
never forget.
Well, 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 well. Mark time. 4. Detail. Pulse. Hope.
Yeah,
I should have let him stole Perry's.
it's raining.